On this episode, as me and Neal Driscoll dive fin too deep with all of y'all, have the Miami Dolphins quietly and all of a sudden established one of the best rush defenses in the NFL? Are Jonah, Savaiinaea, and Kenneth Grant going to be owed some apologies by a lot of people who were way too quick to jump the gun on them? Plus, we got the Jets this week. You know, we got to get Neal's thoughts on Tua's play and a whole lot more. Smash the like button if you're new. Go ahead and subscribe. And as always, let's get into this.
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. And I am joined by Neal Driscoll. As you guys remember, the Tuesday film sessions have kind of gone out the window for the rest of this year, as we've moved Fin Too Deep to Tuesdays due to Neal's schedule. I mean, we'll be back in the off season with the film work. We'll be back next year with the film work. But Neal, the Dolphins have now established, I don't know if you remember Major League with that famous line where he's like, if you win 2 games in a row, that is what we call a winning streak. And the Miami Dolphins have now started a winning streak. Officially, I guess you could say. I mean, they had won a couple in a row. Now they've won 3 in a row. So we're officially into a streak. We're streaking into the Jets this weekend. And then the tough part of the remainder of their schedule. How you feeling coming off this win? It was ugly, but a win is a win.
Right. Well, yeah, it was 16-0. And I literally was putting out a tweet with a belt saying, belt to ass is coming. I said, hey, I don't want to jinx us, so I'm not going to post that. Well, me not posting it might have jinxed us, because I had texted you at the end of the game. We've seen this movie. I after they got that onside kick, I was like, this is a Carolina Panthers game. And Olave, who's probably the Saints, if he's not the best player on their team, one of them, to have that touchdown go through his hands. But like you said, you'll never apologize for a win, right? It's one of those things that, like, that was as ugly as it gets, right? Like, that is an ugly, ugly win. But, I'm not going to be one of these guys that's upset because my team won, because, all we really did was move one spot in the draft order for those who care about the draft order. I'll take the wins when we can get them. I think that we're starting to see signs of – the good news for me is that I think we're seeing signs of a team that is playing hard, right? Like the defense especially, they play their asses off and kept us in that game. And sure, they started to buckle a little bit in the second half, but, when they had to make plays, they did. Minkah Fitzpatrick, man, I mean, what a performance by a guy that everyone told you was washed, before the season. They clearly, as much as we want to, throw, trash at Greer, that was a trade he won. I mean, he won that trade with Pittsburgh. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Jonah Smith's getting called out at pressers by Aaron Rodgers, and Jalen Ramsey is not the Jalen Ramsey that we saw a few years back, right? So Minkah was amazing. It was a good game for Chop Robinson, right? Like, we wanted to see Chop come out. I mean, I know that he had a sack and a half, and what I was even more impressed is I thought he actually played the run extremely well. He drew a hold late in the game. I was happy to see him get a second career start. Good for him. Jordan Brooks continues to be a monster. Zach Sealer played possessed in that first half. So I think you're seeing a lot of good. On the offense, I tweeted that I was willing to give Mike McDaniel a mulligan because I thought the quarterback played as bad as a quarterback in this league could play. But I will say late in the game, McDaniel did make some head-scratching, like riding 18 to the red zone and then throwing the ball 3 times just does not make sense to me. I know that there's a strong chance that McDaniel's back here, but, like, it wasn't a horrific game for him, but I don't think he coached his best game late. I think he kind of coached not to lose that game once we had a lead that was kind of comfortable rather than go for the kill. And I want my coaches to go for the kill because I've seen enough football to know that your lead's never too good and it almost bite them. I will say this, like NFL officiating, there's a big problem league-wide. And some calls go your way, some calls don't. How they gave that onside kick to the Saints, to me, man, in that moment was really, really badly done. And I see the timeline flooded with officiating from other franchises. It's clear there's a problem, and it's going to happen in a big playoff game or something where them not doing their jobs to a satisfactory level is going to impact something big. To me, the game that I once loved that was not full of flags, it's kind of gone, man. Like every freaking play, there's a flag. Like let them play some football, especially some of these defensive holding calls. I just think there's just way too much. Like Rasul Douglas got hit with a call in this game that is as bad as you'll ever see. But after all that, we won, and we're 5-6 or 5-7, headed into a game against a team that traditionally we have a lot of success against. So, I mean, the sky's not fallen. I think it's going to take a miracle for this team to even get into real playoff contention. But, again, I'm all about winning 3 of our last 4 games, looking like a way better football team than we started the season. It's one of those things that, though, I think Reason, we've done this for years now. We always point to those 3 or 4 games that we should have won, right? And those are the outliers sometimes to why this team doesn't get to where they need to be. This team needs to find a way to start better and finish better to get anywhere, I think, going forward. But, again, a win's a win.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue, too, right now is the teams ahead of them. I mean, they're not getting any favors done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a horrible weekend. If you were playoff watching, it was a horrible weekend.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I've said this before. The Jags have a pretty easy schedule. Do we really think the Bills are going to collapse? Let's be real here. Nope. And then on top of that, the Chargers, even if you do catch up to them, they have the tiebreakers on you, both divisional and head-to-head. So, I mean, we've done it to ourselves. Like, we're in this position, we've done it to ourselves.
2 teams are coming to the East, Patriots and Bills. 2 teams are coming to the South, whether it's the Colts and Texans, the Jags. 2 of those teams are coming out. The Ravens probably win the AFC North at a default, even though they might win like Seattle did a few years back when they were 8-9. Like, I don't know. And then, the Broncos are going to go right there. So that is 6 of your 7 teams. You got the Chargers in the hunt, but it could be all 3 of those teams from the South make it. I mean, it's going to take some uphill sledding. I think they were too behind the 8 ball to catch up. So, like, to me, it's not a playoff or bust season. But I'll say this: I want them to go out and win as many games as they can. Like, I want to see this team.
Oh, of course.
I want to see this.
But
team
I've already told you what I think. I think this all halts against the Steelers. I think we win this weekend, even with the expected bad conditions, because I think it's supposed to be below 45 degrees, and we know Tua's record when it's below 45 degrees. I think we'll win. I also did say, though, a few weeks ago, if you remember, Justin Fields getting benched was not good for us because I thought Tyrod Taylor, gives them a better chance at beating us, right? And right now it's projected to be, 38 degrees, I think. Tua Tagovailoa is 0-7 in his career when it's below 46 degrees. And he's 1-8 if it's below 50 degrees.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I thought this was a win. Definitely, when I looked ahead at the schedule. Before the season, I thought this was a win. Last week, I thought this was a win. If Tua Tagovailoa plays like he played Sunday, it will be tough for this team to win another football game this year.
But I agree with Robert Thomason. On the flip side, the saving grace could be Achane is perfect for a game in these conditions. And, I will talk about the run game in a little bit here, but that could be a saving grace. But, dude, if we fall behind the 8 ball and you have to drop back to a 30 to 40 times. Yeah,
right. And here's the thing. Like, the Jets special teams right now is playing as well as any unit in football. Austin McNamara, punter out of Iowa, has been punting at a Pro Bowl level as a rookie. Nick Folk kicked the game winner this weekend. Battling father time, but still a very effective kicker. Isaiah Williams, their kick returner, who fumbled against us, mind you, has be in the last 3 to 4 weeks one of the best return men in the game. Period. Like I think that their special teams is an advantage for them, and in messy games, that's something you have to consider, right? And the way the Dolphins are going to win this game, Mike McDaniel is a better coach than Aaron Glenn. That is an advantage that they have, right? I think the defense matches up very well with the Jets' offense. Like, you stop Breece Hall, you don't let Donnie Mitchell beat you back, you keep everything in front of you. If the Jets have talented rookie tackles in Olufashanu and Armand Membu, no doubt about it. James Pierce beat Membu like a drum on Sunday. You can win against them. It's not easy, but if the Jets come out there and sustain some long drives and Tyrod Taylor plays smart, effective football, then you're going to get in a situation where you're going to have Tua throwing. Now, the Jets secondary, in my opinion, is equally as bad as you would think the Saints would have been, and that's where I guess some of my disappointment comes from Tua is that he made Kool-Aid McKinstry look like Darrelle Revis out there, right? That was I didn't have that on my bingo card, and I don't think Tyler Shough was good by any means, but I think he at least played on par.
Tyler Shough flashed.
Yeah, he had some. Well, he had some moments, and I guess if you're keeping score, you could make the argument that he outplayed Tua in Miami.
He did
as a rookie, and that I think the Dolphins. I think this is like a 20-16 game either way, and whatever quarterback is better is the team that will win. So, I'm not gonna overreact to Tua's last few games and say he's automatically the worst quarterback in football. But I will say that I'm very concerned by his regression and just his overall demeanor out on the football field. It doesn't seem to me that his bad play is bothering him as much as it should. And I like the I'll get him next time mentality, but I do want to see some of that fire that we used to see in Tua all the time. What overall, what I see out of Tua, not just as a player, just as the human right now, seems night and day to what we saw in 2023.
Yeah, I remember I was asking the question after the Colts game. I was asking the question, is this guy checked out?
He seems right?
Sometimes he does seem checked out, man. Sometimes it seems like he's fed up and just doesn't want to be here.
And I don't want to draw to conclusions and speak for anyone. I think getting that contract was very important for him and for his family and his longevity and all that stuff. And when people get paid big, right, it does two things. It makes them content and satisfied, or it can also light a fire in their belly to go and take the next step. Everything I know about Tua, the person off the football field, is that he does have that fire, right? That's all I've known. That's where I think I take a step back right now, and I'm just kind of I don't understand. I don't know if all the noise about the Dolphins potentially replacing him or anything like that is getting to him, but man, there's a couple plays in that game where I'm just dude, do you even care out there? And I know Julian Hill should catch that ball, right? But
that was a bad throw, though. That was bad placement. It was a bad throw, and Julian Hill's not the type of player that's ever been known to bail out bad throws like that.
Dude, he averages 10 catches a year, Julian Hill. 10 catches a year. So, from a personnel standpoint, I don't understand why that's not Waller or Dulcich, right? I don't understand that. But it frustrates me because everyone's Julian Hill. Look, Hill should catch that. But when you play receiver, right, and your body is going full momentum one direction and that ball is 8 inches behind you, it's not as easy as you think it is to make that catch, especially if you're a specialty blocking tight end that has 30 career catches, right, in 3 years. That's just not there was this stat, and there was a play where he threw the ball downfield and the receiver is open and he missed them, but he also had 10 yards to run right in front of him. There was just a couple plays that I just didn't understand. And I think for a lot of players, when it gets bad quick. And, I think he started to press to try to make up for it. But I also say this. I think Mike coached spots of that game not to expose Tua, but I also think he put Tua in some really bad spots in that game as well.
I think a big problem with him, and I've been saying it since early this season, the word I've been using is tentative. He's playing very tentative. I've been also saying he's playing scared, afraid, throw whatever word you want in there. And the problem when you play like that is, A, you can't play this physical of a game like that, and B, when you're playing that way, you have no confidence. And
right.
Tua with no confidence, there's just a bunch of factors here, okay? Like, you can see Nick Hicks had him in the best physical shape of his life. He no longer has that. You could see Nick Hicks in 3D QP has mechanics at the best it's been in his professional career. He no longer has that, Then you look at the lack of confidence and playing afraid. His processing hasn't even been that sharp this year too. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking on that interception throw. I just don't know what the hell he was thinking. And, there's all, you would get, a head scratcher here and there from Tua the last couple of years, but now they're like, they're bountiful. You know what I mean? And the problem with him is, and I've said this, given what I know privately and what I've known since training camp and what I've learned through the year, I don't know if this is going to get corrected fast enough. And that's the problem that I have with the whole situation, is knowing what I know. I just don't think he's going to, I just don't think it's going to get corrected. And there's various reasons why I do not believe it's going to be corrected. But if I go into those, then I open up the can of worms and got to tell everyone everything I know. And like I said, I'll lay all the chips on the table. If things go south and he's out of Miami, sure, no problem. I'll do the same with McDaniel. But right now, I'm not putting that stuff out there. I'm not going to be that guy. But knowing what I know, I just don't know if he's going to correct it. And because of that, that puts us in a real awkward position in terms of, like, you're looking how this defense is playing. You're looking at how the run game is going right now. You're looking at the weapons that are still available with Tyreek out, i.e. Waller, i.e. Waddle, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, especially the run game, right? Like, one thing we've always said is, go back to Bama. Tua, he's one of those guys who he's rhythmic off a run game. His game can elevate when a good run game is established. Well, we've established that, and you still continue to have your worst season professionally next to what, your rookie season, or basically you're having your worst season under McDaniel. And what's crazy is, like, Neal, if I would have told you back in July, if I would have said to you, Neal, guess what? I looked at my crystal ball. Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy till at minimum week 14. You know what you would say to me, bro? You'd say we're winning 10 games.
Yeah.
And the fact that we started 1-7 and his play is this bad in so many areas, from the physical regression to the mechanical regression to the mental regression. That's a scary thing.
And you know what? It's getting a little worse each week, and it's becoming a consistent thing. All quarterbacks have bad days, right? Like, everyone has bad days at their job and whatever it is, right? But, like, I think Miami made it clear. They fired their GM during the football season, right? Like, Tua says he's not on social media and all that stuff, but, like, when there's noise and you're in a profession, there's noise. The Dolphins have made it clear through their beat, through their actions, that they are lukewarm on Tua Tagovailoa. And I think in return that Tua Tagovailoa is lukewarm on the Miami Dolphins. And it's a relationship you can see.
And the fan base.
Yeah. And you can see that relationship deteriorating, I think, pretty rapidly when things start going bad again. And it sucks, because I don't think either party is wrong. But sometimes, man, like, the way you handle your business, like, I personally don't think I think some of the stuff that's come out shouldn't come out until after the season. But I also think Tua did not do himself any favors when he kind of made it you against me. I'm at the podium. Who are you to question me? I thought that was so. I think everyone's made mistakes, and I think it's a very bad situation. And I think overall, the Dolphins are in one of the worst positions in the NFL when they know they need a new quarterback, but contractually,
But you're winning, and you're winning,
Yeah,
so you're not
and
even
you're
going to get a
winning.
chance to get him.
And that was
Because
a good point on
contractually, you're going to have
by
to
you.
get on a rookie. What?
On Achane. That was a great point by you because, like, look, when they do the top 100 players in the NFL at the end of this year,
Achane's making it.
He's going to be top 20. Like, he's that good of a football player this year. Like, he is like, everyone gives Jahmyr Gibbs the kudos. Jahmyr Gibbs has a lot more surrounding him than Devon Achane. Devon Achane is practically carrying the Miami Dolphins offense on his back. Like, he is.
I do want to. I want listen. I don't want to get away from it. I want to address this before we get off the topic, because I've seen it on social media. I've seen it in the chat here today. To his hip. Well, again, this goes back to my point. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the hip. It's the hip." All you're doing is proving my point. All right, and I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. Why was the hip never an issue when he was working with Nick? Now all of a sudden he's not working with Nick, and the hip's an issue. I mean, again, that proves my point. You've got a guy in Nick Hicks who knows your body pause better than anyone from an athletic standpoint. I've said this, Neal. Think about this. When you really sit back and think about this, Neal, think of how many times the Dolphins asked Nick Hicks to either lean down or bulk up to a Tagovailoa. And he did it every time, and he had Tua in the best shape he could possibly be in, and the mechanics and the footwork were crisp every single time. Okay? Think of the fluctuating body shapes and body types they were asking for Nick to provide. And he did with Tua. That's the thing. My thing is, you've got the keys to the Ferrari, but you're not walking to the Ferrari. You're deciding to take the Austin Mini out for spin instead. And the Dolphins deserve some blame, right? Because the Dolphins, they don't like Nick Hicks. They haven't liked Nick Hicks since Brian Flores was here, right? They took credit for the jiu-jitsu stuff, which was all of Nick Hicks' idea. They got a hard on for Nick Hicks. I don't know what it is or why, but they do. And, ever since he signed the contract, people are fooling themselves if they think Tua I'm not going to talk to anyone anymore. No. The Dolphins had some say in that because Tua is now a $212 million insurance liability.
I mean, look, you could argue that contract, as it stands today, is one of the worst moments in Miami Dolphins history because of what has happened. And you're right. I don't get the people that want to attack Nick for doing a good job, right? Like, because
people are Dolphins, sick, bro, in the head over football and Tua. It's crazy.
The Dolphins treat Tua like he's a movie actor, like he's Christian Bale, shedding weight for a movie, gaining weight for a movie. Like it's
meddling. Think about this. Think about this, bro. I said this to someone yesterday. Actually, think about this. Okay, Brian Flores was here. They called a meeting with Brian Flores. They said leave Chan Gailey at home. Pulled Flores in and said, "Hey, man, look at the jersey sales. Look at the numbers. You got to bench Fitz and you got to start Tua." That literally happened. Like that literally. All I just said literally just happened. Chan Gailey didn't even know Tua was going to be the starting quarterback. He found out through social media. That literally happened, okay? We fire Flores. They hire McDaniel. What do? Well, you got to keep Eichenberg. You got to keep Jackson. You got to make Tua work. You got to keep Boyer. You got to keep Crossman, Garfinkel, and Ross continuing to meddle. Then, now, look at what Tua signs a $212 million contract. Instead of saying to him, keep doing what's working. We want to see you grow off that 2023 form. Who are you working with that got you in that shape, that got you to that point? They meddled again. Well, now you're an insurance liability. Everything's got to be approved for us. And now you are meddling into what's made Tua work and what's got Tua to the point where you handed him a $212 million contract. That's the problem. Ross and Garfinkel meddle in everything, bro. Everything.
And they're about to do it again because if they hire a GM with the parameters that they have to keep their coach, I don't care who the GM is. I will say that I've seen the movie. I know the ending. We're going to be looking for a new coach in a year. Then that coach this GM is going to bring in their coach. There's not going to be synergy. There's going to be finger pointing, a lack of authoritative presence within the organization, and there's going to be a bunch of those guys in that spider brain.
Or they're going to keep Champ Kelly because he's willing to collaborate with them and do what they want, and he's willing to collaborate with McDaniel.
And dude, that's probably where this is heading. It's going to be another year patchwork, and they're going to keep McDaniel, Tua, and Kelly together. And I actually think Champ Kelly has a potential to be a good GM in the future.
So do I.
But not now, not in Miami. They need the ship to make a big turn. Not, this is a fundamental crossroads that they find themselves in where you can't just go status quo. Status quo is going to kill this fan base.
You know why I say McVay should trade? And I've been saying this for months. Now I've added Minnesota to the list. But I've been saying, hey, if Stafford retires, McVay and the Rams should trade for Tua. I've been saying this for quite some time now, right? You know why too, Neil? If he's out and playing for the Rams, who's out west? 3D QB's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. And you know what McVay's going to say? He's going to look at the film. Because even last year, check this one out. Remember last year, he didn't work out with Nick Hicks last offseason, but he did work with 3D QB. And look at the results we saw. I always bring this up. Neil, when he came back from the concussion, do you remember those 6 games? Yeah, we went 3-3, but it wasn't his fault. He threw for 1,642 yards. He threw for 13 touchdowns and 1 interception. He had a 77 completion percentage, and he had almost a 120 passer rating because he was working with 3D QB in the offseason. See, so what has that shown us? Either he works with Nick Hicks or he works with cream of the crop guys, one guy who knows his body and knows him well, or he works with the best of the best in terms of the QB guys. And look at the results we've gotten with him. We've gotten that Tua that you've seen the Tua that got that money.
Right.
Now think about this. This is the first offseason, Neil. He hasn't worked with 3D QB or Nick Hicks. And now what is everyone saying? Physical regression, mechanical regression. People are saying, oh, the hip's degenerative now. What took one offseason? And it's what I've been saying, Neil. When you are not that good of an athlete like Tua is, like Brady was, you got to spend millions of dollars on your body. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. LeBron James is an elite athlete, and he spends like $5 million a year on his body. CeeDee Lamb is a wide receiver, and he's a way better athlete than Tua, and it just came out that he spends about $1.5 million on his body a year.
Yeah,
Tua needs to be spending, buddy, you're going to be making $50 million a year. You're telling me you can't take $3 or $4 million of that and dedicate that to your body? Because that's the thing, Neil. If you want to be the best at whatever you do in life, it's how bad do you want it? And the work you put in is going to show everyone how bad you want it. And when you are behind the ball athletically in sports, that means you got to make up for it with surrounding yourself with the right trainers, the right coaches in the offseason, and putting the right amount of money into your body. That's every sport. That's not just football, Neil.
Yeah, I think it's been an unserious approach since he's gotten paid and since he left Knicks. And look, dude, this isn't popular. I think the best thing that happens is the Dolphins make a bold GM hire, and that guy kind of takes this current product that we know in the backyard and puts it out of its misery. And I know eating that type of money for a quarterback is unheard of in this league.
They're not going to do it.
But I
Ross
don't
will
think
never
they
admit that kind of financial failure and that bad of a business decision.
But if that GM if they hired a GM that had the guts and they did it on a post-June and they ate it over 2 years, man.
But he'd have to be approved by Steve. That big of a deal would have to be approved by Shough and Ross.
I think it's unlikely, and that's why I think honestly that we're going to get much of the same in the next hire. And I think because of that, even if a guy like Mike Tomlin shakes free, he'll probably steer clear of Miami because nobody wants to go to a sinking ship that's never going to get back, above water. And I think that's where they are. But, if they gave a GM the ability to make those type of decisions, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of the coin you are, that probably would mean the end of Mike McDaniel.
That would be a Shore and Ross call.
Yeah, and that's where, like, I hate to say this, but I don't think anything changes until Stephen Ross is no longer the owner of this team.
I've said this. I said in the offseason, like, I didn't want to say it, but, like, until the Grim Reaper comes knocking, I don't think things are going to get better, bro.
Because he's not getting out before then. That's the thing.
No.
Like, if he doesn't want to get out, he's making
Look at
money.
Robert Kraft, Neal. Robert Kraft doesn't want to have to deal with getting involved in football operation and deals. He didn't have to with Belichick, and when he did, he wasn't happy about it. He just wants to sit back in the box, watch his team. What do you need? I will provide the resources. What do you need? Look at Jerry Jones. The problem that has become with them is because he meddles too much. Stephen Ross is Jerry Jones minus the winning in the 90s.
Yeah, he's the AFC version of Jerry Jones. And
yeah, minus the winning in the 90s.
It's the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins that are the three teams that their owners care. And those owners want to win. And they think that they're making the right moves. But what they don't realize is they're doing anything but that. And, like, when you make a decision in your life and the first thing you do is find parameters to attach to it, you're not making the right decisions usually. You know what I mean? Like imagine if they came to you and said, yo, hey, this is Tom Smith with ESPN Reason. I want your podcast to come on to my network, but you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Now, depends on what that contract looks like, right? But, like, more than likely, you're going to say, fuck that. That's not me, right? Like, that's not me. I don't want to do that. That's not what – like, so it's like, I hate to say it, but, like, I was once excited about what this offseason was going to be, but now I'm kind of falling into that trap that I don't think much change is coming.
Yeah. Like, I don't think they're going to trade up for a quarterback because they're going to be too far back and they're not going to mortgage the future. Like, I think it'll just be continue building off of what you are now. You know, are they going to start it off in the right direction by taking care of Achane right away? Because, Neal, quite frankly, the Miami Dolphins, I mean, it's a real question right now. Have the Dolphins become one of the NFL's best rushing offenses? And it's not just Achane, it's McDaniel's creativity. I mean, we are seeing that sixth offensive lineman package, that jumbo package. We are really seeing positive effects from it. I mean, and then on top of that, you know, Achane right now, was he third in the NFL in rushing yards? You know, he's top 4 in receiving yards by running backs. Achane has turned into, you know, a lot of the people who were comping him to Marshall Faulk coming out. A lot of them were in my chat. A lot of those people are starting to look a little correct, man. Devon Achane and Mike McDaniel are quietly putting together one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL right now. And what's crazy about this, Neal, is imagine if you did have 2023 Tua. Because think about this, Neal.
Yeah.
We are getting into December. These are the months where you got to win with a run game and you got to win in the trenches. And that's how this team is shaping up. But I did a show, Neal, yesterday. Tua Tagovailoa, you can make the argument right now, his play is holding this offense back, you know. Missed the angle route to Achane, that was a walk-in touchdown. Missed the first down throw to Julian Hill. Threw that interception to Waddle after the defense got a big turnover and we were in scoring position off the turnover. Should have at least came away with 3, and we didn't even get that because of the interception. I mean, you know, we should have had over 30 points, but because of 2 errors, it held us back, and this has been a recurring theme. And what's worrisome is the last 2 weeks it's been against really bad teams.
And really bad quarterbacks. Mariota and Tyler Shough, right? And Tyrod Taylor falls in that breath. But you just kind of nailed the headline in what you just said. And I couldn't agree more. I think if you had 2023 Tua, the Dolphins in this parity-filled league right now are one of the toughest outs in football.
Yeah,
but,
I agree with you.
But he's nowhere near that caliber of player.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this roster, it's not complete. It has holes. But what it does have is a very good pass rush, right? It has people that are on team-friendly deals outperforming their contract across the board. Rasul Douglas, Jack Jones, Aaron Brewer, you name the players, most of them are outperforming their contract. They have a young core nucleus of players. And it's a good segue into one of our top talking points, but like a draft class that started off rough, but man, have they found their footing quick. Like that three-headed monster on the defensive line with Kenneth Grant, Zeke Biggers, and Jordan Phillips, that could become.
Zeke's starting to show up, Neal? Oh, boy.
Dude, he split that double team. And I watched on that play. If you watch, Kenny Grant's getting double teamed. Yeah, he's getting double teamed. And Biggers put his damn long arms and just say, "Get out of my effing way," and made that play. And then, dude, every week Jordan Phillips is making splash run stops, right? Mm-hmm. I'll say some crazy shit because I was all about trading people at the deadline. You have to figure a way to extend Minkah Fitzpatrick. You have to.
I agree. And what do you do with Kader Kohou now? Because he's been playing a lot in the slot, and he's kind of taken Kader Kohou's spot, and he's back to his all-pro form almost, bro.
Look, the Dolphins aren't going to have a lot of money, but they're going to release Tyreek Hill, and that puts them about $25 million under the cap, right?
Yeah.
A new Minkah extension puts about 9 more on that books. That's $34 million. Plus, let's just say, I mean, there are restructures that they can make, and I don't like the restructure route, but I think comfortably they can get to $50 million in cap space. And what do I want to do? I don't want to touch free agents. I want to stay away from free agents. I want to reward. I want to reward our guys. I want to reward Jordan Brooks. I want to reward Aaron Brewer. I want to reward Rasul Douglas, man, because I don't think you're going to break the bank for him to be your number 2 corner. And I think and I'll even say this: you save $7 million if you cut him. But Bradley Chubb, man, quietly is playing okay football. Like
but isn't his cap at like $31 million next year, dude?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying he'd have to rework that deal because he's he's an old But
what do you do with Austin Jackson? He looked good in run sets. Pass pro, he's kind of a little rusty. But he's on the books for like 15, 16 million next year.
If you're going back with McDaniel, honestly, and you're going back with Tua as your starter next year, you might as well bring Austin Jackson
But he's
back.
hurt. He's hurt more than Tua.
I agree. Oh, I agree.
That's why Fano or Moagoa got to be on the radar.
Here's how I think it looks for them. I think knowing the Dolphins, they're going to be looking. I would tell people this: Mansour Delaney, the cornerback from LSU, he had another pick this weekend.
Yeah,
I actually think he's the best quarterback with Jermod McCoy even included at this point. I think he's a guy they're going to love. There's going to be pass rushers that are going to be in their wavelength. I think David Bailey from Texas Tech is a guy they're going to like. Yeah. But I do think one of those offensive linemen are going to get there. And see, that's where if you get a new GM who's coming from the outside and wants to build this right. And Patrick Paul, even though he gave up a sack this week, continues sacks happen in this league, right? It happens. Patrick Paul,
he's been great this year.
Yeah, he's a foundational young left tackle. Jonah Savaiinaea is playing better and better every single week. Aaron Brewer's a borderline top 5 center in the game to me. You do have a hole at right guard, but look, Cole Strange is a journeyman getting the job done. If you can find, a way to get some stability at that position, because I think James Daniels is a ship that should sail no matter what, because he's another often injured guy. And look, I think Austin Jackson did play well. I don't have any faith that he can stay healthy in this league anymore. So I do think that there's an offensive line on the right side availability that the Dolphins should be. And if they don't go round 1, there's going to be a lot of names at the top of round 2 to get. But, one thing I don't know if you agree. They got to get another bona fide weapon in this offense, whether it's Kenyon Sadiq at a tight end or another strong receiver like a Chris Brazell, Chris Bell type player, maybe at the top of round 2. But the thing is I'll tell you, man, where they are in the draft order, if they win 1 or 2 more games, they're not going to get much lower when they are, because we talked about the parity in the league. There is a lot of really, really bad football teams this year, man.
Yeah,
there's teams that are the Jets have 3 wins, and they right now hold the 7th pick in the draft. Typically when you have 3 wins, you're fighting for the first overall pick. So there's a lot of bad teams, but yeah, man, there's some things that are going well. And those young players are, I think, what gets you excited to watch the Dolphins on Sundays.
But how much credit do you that's I think that's another thing that McDaniel can hang his cap on. He can go to Ross and say, okay, I got your reclamation project to be a Pro Bowler. I got your reclamation project to lead the league in passing. But when your reclamation project started holding me back, look at how I transformed this offense into one of the better rush offenses in the NFL. Now imagine what that could, because that's what's so frustrating about this, dude. Like in December and January, you need to win games in the trenches with the run game. And, you got to play good defense. The defense has turned the corner and become what we wanted it to be out of the gate, right? It started to turn that corner. The run game is established. Jonah Savaiinaea is turning a corner. Austin Jackson is back. The offensive line is getting better. All these things are getting better. But here's Tua playing the worst football of his career in the McDaniel era.
Yeah, man. It's frustrating. Here's what we know, though, right? Like, we know Stephen Ross loves Mike McDaniel, like that, like that girlfriend that won't go away type, so like it's gonna take something huge to shift his commitment to Mike McDaniel. And I think there's something out there that could happen. And we've talked, I know this for sure. We were the first two people that ever talked about it on a podcast. And it's been the Mike Tomlin conversation that we had before football season started, that if things went south in Pittsburgh, he could shake free. And it wouldn't be that he was kind of fired. It was that he's frustrated. The Steelers aren't getting the results that a franchise like them want. A mutual divorce could happen. And the Steelers, they had a 4-game lead on the Baltimore Ravens, right? And now the Ravens are in first place in that division. And the Ravens aren't really winning football, right? So it's like, it's been a complete disaster there. I do think that star could shock Stephen Ross to doing something big, but you'd have to be prepared, I think, to give full control of the organization to him. And that's where I don't think the Dolphins would. So I think they could get a seat at the table. But in like so many instances with Tom Brady and Sean Payton and all the things they chased, they might get the seat at the table, but I don't think they could seal the deal. So I don't know. I'm lukewarm on Mike McDaniel. Like, I'm in the middle on him. Sometimes I think he's a good coach. Sometimes I'm like, Mike, why? I think the one thing that I have to give consideration is he's dealing with the same quarterback that had the number one offense in the NFL, that put up 70 points in a football game. And instead of getting better with experience in his offense, for various reasons that we've discussed all day, right? Like, he's went the opposite direction. When you're a coach that's in that position, how do you really win? Like, right? How do you really win if you're not confident in your quarterback? Because
let me ask you this, Neal. I said it during the live stream. The way he played, the way he played those downs before the first half ended, screamed there was no confidence in Tua getting the ball in the end zone when they settled for the field goal there. Like, to me, it was clear McDaniel didn't want to put the ball into his hands at the end of the second quarter and risk them coming away with no points.
Yeah. I think he called that game at times being the aggressive Mike McDaniel that we've grown to like either love or hate. But then I also think at times that you saw him go away from that because he was a little nervous, about what might happen. I think it's a bad situation. I've always said this about Mike. I love that he supported Tua. He helped Tua get that deal. That was awesome. It was probably, in retrospect, the worst thing that he's done, because I do think if that guy ever gets the opportunity to groom his own quarterback, he will be very successful at this level. And there's no doubt in my mind that if he did become available, there'd be a line. I think he'd be more attractive as an offensive coordinator to teams than any of the available head coaching candidates, right? Like, he's a well-respected mind in this league, man. So, like, it's one of those things that, like, the Dolphins are in a really, really rough predicament in coaching and quarterback, and, like, how they let go of Greer in the middle of the season, and, like, how they kind of, just kind of one-on-one with their business. It makes it even more confusing because here's the thing, right? They technically have a GM opening, right? they could be the first team to be ahead of it and talk to candidates, right?
Mhm.
But they haven't done any of that yet. So that makes me think that they're either going to wait till the end of the season and then let everybody else get on the same playing field with them, or they're going to go with Champ Kelly, right? I don't know. It has a feeling to me like they don't really have a plan. And that's not a good predicament to be in.
Yeah. I I don't know. I just think I don't know. Well, we're gonna find out.
Right.
46 likes to get to 100. Smash that like button, guys. Smash that like button. Let's get the likes up. Over 250 of you in the chat. Let's get up past 100 likes. We need 46 more. Smash that like button. All right, let's keep it going here. You started to touch on them a little bit, but let's add Jonah Savaiinaea to the frame. I mentioned he's turning the corner. Dolphin fans who were too quick to jump the gun on Kenny Grant and Jonah Savaiinaea and, not allow these kids to find their footings. They're kind of looking foolish again, like how they were with Chop Robinson last year. What are your thoughts on Jonah Savaiinaea?
The arrow's pointing up. I think the last 3 games have been his best game of his career each time, and he's getting better every week. And when you're a young player, there's 2 things you adapt to, right? The speed of the game, but also the strength of the players on the other line of scrimmage. And I think, that is one of the things that, Jonah's starting to buckle down and get. Like, he's an uber talented guy. When he was playing as bad as he was for a portion of the season, ironically, it seemed like a lot of the players on the team, not just on the offensive line, but across the board, were playing as bad. There is some weird voodoo magic that Chris Greer leads his team and they haven't lost a football game yet since, right? Like there is there is something there, right? But and after his exit, which makes things even more puzzling to me, then all the rookies start to shine, right? Like it's interesting. But Jonah's playing much, much better. I will say this. I would like to see Dante Trader get some more snaps than Ashton Davis. I am not an Ashton Davis guy. I don't think he's a really good player out there. The defensive line, the rookies there, I mean, bravo, right? Like Kenny Grant every week is eating double teams. Biggers, Jordan Phillips playing meaningful snaps. Like they're playing
Jason Marshall Jr. is not going to get as much of a shot because of how Mink is playing right now and where he's playing right now, but he was turning a corner too, eh? Jason Marshall's flashing.
And look, you don't draft everybody, especially 5th-round picks, to be starters eventually. Like if Jason Marshall's a good dime defensive back, like that's a win. Like you need guys. Like you need a 53-man roster where your 53 has some ability to contribute to the team. So like, it's a big draft coming up to parlay though, and combined with what you already have.
Yeah.
Like, and you have a 1, you have a 2, you have 3 threes. I don't know. Who knows if they try to.
And I mean, trades. On the flip side, with a guy like Jonah, think about this: people were worried with the small sample size they got of Patrick Paul in year 1, heading into year 2. Jonah's got a lot more experience. He's going to be a lot more prepared for year 2 than Patrick Paul was. And who's to say he's not going to take that same leap?
Right. And I think we're at a point where, you got to get a good starter in the upcoming draft to keep this line trend going. But Brewer looks like the centerpiece of that line. Patrick Paul looks like the left tackle. When you get a guy like him in the 2nd round, that accelerates a lot of things for you because he's playing – he's playing every bit as good as Olu Fashanu for the Jets, right? Like there's no doubt about it. And if Jonah settles in as one of your guards, right, then you got 3 really solid building blocks on the offensive line. And then if you really do go out and get a first round like type of guy, like a Fanu or a Malgoe, or even a guy at the top of round 2 that I would like a lot would be Trevor Gooseby from Texas, who played awesome this week against Cassius Howe. But like, you go get another foundational offensive lineman, man. And then, Achane's holes are just going to get bigger and bigger. You got Waddle. I like Malik as a weapon, but not as a primary type of guy. Dude, Greg Dulcich continues to make some nice catches. I think there's some really nice pieces on both sides of the ball. Depending on what they do with the coach and GM, in today's NFL, you can turn things around pretty quickly. So it's really how they handle the quarterback situation that I'm interested to see. But these young guys, man, good for them, man. That's what you want to see in a season where you don't achieve your goal. You know, the silver lining is that you got young players that are getting better every week and starting to earn up to that capital. You know, I heard a lot of people talking a lot of crap about Kenny Grant for a long time.
Yep.
And now he's starting to, I mean, he's getting more minutes, he's getting more snaps, he's earning it. That's, you know, that's the thing you're starting to see with Anthony Weaver. He ain't going to roll out the red carpet for you just because you're a high pick. He's making Chop earn it. He's making Kenny Grant earn it. You know, you're seeing 7th round rookies play. You know what I mean? If you earn it, he'll let you have it. You know, I think there's a lot of good pieces. The last 5 weeks have proven to me there is some good building blocks here. It's who's going to be building and what's next that gets you excited.
Yeah. Got to hit on this draft, and that's what's going to be key about, you know, whoever the new GM. You're going to have a potentially top 15 pick. We got to be efficient in the draft, man.
Yeah, are you in this position that I'm in now, where I'm anti quarterback in this draft class? Like, I'm anti it. I don't want to spend a 2nd round pick on any of the guys. I think, you know, the law of averages say that if Dante Moore comes out, him, Mendoza, and Ty Simpson. I mean, look, the Raiders, the Browns, the Saints, the Jets. Like, there's 4 teams starving for a quarterback. None of those guys would make their way to us, right? Like, are you at a point where you're kind of like it is, let's run it back with Tua next year and hope we get a better version of him and kind of omit this year's draft class? And if we're going to go quarterback, go 2027. Is that where you are?
I like to listen. I've said this. I think my favorite draft classes are 2027 and 2028 compared to 2026. Like I've said this. I feel like if you don't get Mendoza, Ty Simpson, or Moore, if he declares, it pretty much falls off a cliff.
Right. And the one wild card, which I think it's a stretch if it happened, but now it seems like a lot of people are turning that love fest back on for an Arch Manning, right? Like, if he came out, that would be a really interesting domino, because I think if the Saints do hold the number 1 pick, that could be intriguing for him, right? But I think it's unlikely, because I think he goes back and then he solidifies himself as, you know, one of the stars of 2027. But that's one domino that could change a lot of things. But, you know, I don't think Dante Moore goes back to school, even though that was heavily rumored. I do think he comes out. He is the quarterback that if we made a bold move for a quarterback, and let's just say it was this year's one and next year's one,
yeah,
and maybe a player to make that happen, I'm pretty much all on board on doing so, as long as that player's not Achane or Waddle or Patrick Paul. But, like, you know, I don't think they would need him. But, like, you know what I mean? I'm a Dante Moore guy. I like Mendoza. I don't love him. And I just don't think that trading that type of capital to move up is really feasible when you're paying a quarterback, you know, $53 million to be on your roster.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about, because of that cap hit, if he's going to be on your roster, you actually, if you want to move off of him, it kind of has to be for a rookie. But I still think, you know, if this team loses against Pittsburgh, and let's say they lose against the Bengals, I think the last 2 games of the season, put Ewers in, see what you got.
You know what? I don't hate that. And, you know, I was actually kind of hopeful that they would get a big enough lead against the Saints so that he got some burn anyway. It was actually the opposite, you know. But, yeah, I'd like to see what you have in Ewers for sure. I know that Zach Wilson's not it, right? So I'd like to see what Ewers – but, like, I will say this. Tua is undefeated against the Jets. It's a team that he's historically played really well against. He has every opportunity right in front of him to have a good game against Azare Thomas and Brandon Stevens at corner, with Malachi Moore and Tony Adams at safety, right? Like, I know there could be some elements. It's going to be a colder game, but, like, Tua has played his best football and won against the Jets. Achane was very successful against the Jets when they had Quinnen Williams. I still think he's going to have a big game. You know, I think it's kind of one of those things, man. You focus on the game ahead of you. You go out there, try to get a W, and, you know, whether I want Tua to be the starter in 2027 or not, I also still want him to go out there and throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns this Sunday, right? And you guys know I'm a pretty big. I'm labeled as a pretty big Jet hater out there. If there's a game that I don't want to lose, it's this game. I don't want to lose to the Jets. I don't care if that puts us the 15th pick of the draft. This is a game I want to win. I'd like for this team to show the type of resolve that comes back. What that would be 4 out of the last 5 games you've won. I think that tells you a lot about the men on the roster. And maybe it's a glorified participation trophy, but I do want players on this team that maybe when they're playing for nothing, they still find a way to play for everything.
So we got the Jets this week. Before we get into that Jets game quickly here, I do want to shout out the sponsor of today's video. That, of course, is Sleeper. Listen, if you think you know NFL football, try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app. It's the ultimate fantasy sports app that turns game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app. Pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Just choose 2 or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code Phinside, and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And if you sign up using my code right now, you'll get a free $20 deposited into your account from Sleeper. So go check out Sleeper right now. Neal, the Jets game. I want people in the chat right now. I want you to smash the like button if you think Achane is going to have over 100 yards rushing and over 150 all-purpose yards. Do you think this is a game, Neal, this week? What's your score prediction? And do you think this is a game where we've seen Achane? He's always the guy who gets off the bus no matter who the opponent is. Do you think this is another game where Achane, they lean on him offensively and then they lean on good defense to win? Or do you think Tua bounces back because historically he's kind of chewed up the New York Jets a little bit?
I think overall it's going to be a pretty ugly game for both sides, meaning I think both offenses probably won't come out here and remind you of the greatest show on turf. Because I think when you look at how we met, I mean, obviously Garrett Wilson's not going to be there for the Jets. Mechie and A.D. Mitchell, they flashed a little bit for the Jets. They made some plays, but I like how our secondary matches up with their offense, if I'm being honest. Breece Hall has had success against us, but, man, Jordan Brooks, even Terrell Dodson right now, man, they're firing to that football. And our defensive line, I know the Jets have a good offensive line, but, I think we match up well against them. And you're right. I mean, Achane's going to get his. I'd be smashing the like button if I was in that chat right now because I think he's going to get the 150 all-purpose. And Jalen Waddle historically has been a pretty big Jets killer himself, right? So I think it's important to get Tua in rhythm early. And I'm not a big fan of some of the screens, but I will tell you this. I like when you get the ball in Waddle and Achane's hands. By any means necessary, Tua is undefeated against the Jets. Like, I know it's not going to be 45 degrees, but it's not going to be 12, right? Like, it's doable. I'm here in Baltimore, and it's been sleeting all day, and I've been outside with a T-shirt and some sweatpants. So you're not going to die out there. Like, I think the Dolphins. I think the game's going to go either 20-17 either way, and based off the track record with Tua, I think the Dolphins will be able to find a way to edge it out. They just got to play some good special teams, be smart. But I think the big advantage that they have is that Mike McDaniel is just a superior coach to Aaron Glenn. And when you have a better quarterback and a better coach, and I know that Tua has been rough, but I still think he's a better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. I think that is the formula to win in this football game. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I will give the Jets their kudos. They've been playing really hard for Aaron Glenn the last few weeks. It seems like they've actually played harder and got better once they made the trades for Sauce Gardner and Quinn Williams and sent them packing. So I don't think it's going to be a tough game, but I think it's a game the Dolphins will be able to eke out, and we'll be 6-7 heading into a primetime game against the Steelers.
And another cold weather game potentially against the Steelers, man. Oh,
and it could be it could be Mason Rudolph, right? I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
That's the thing. If you can get through this stretch of 3 games with wins, Tampa Bay's playing up and down, and the Patriots are trending towards having to bench their starters. So if you could actually win these next 3 games, you do have a chance at running the table for sure, 110%. But even still, like I said earlier, even if you run the table, I think if you go look right now on what is it, the New York Times and their playoff predictor for the NFL, I mean, I think we're like if we win out, we are like a 21% chance.
Which is crazy, dude. That is crazy.
Even making the playoffs.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's where we're at. Let me do it right now. I'll tell you right now. If we win out now, we've gone down. Now it's down to 14%. And that's not including what everyone else does. And that's just because we got no favors. But
right. Well, one thing I think we'll agree on, dude, is that here's the thing that will get you, I think, on the positive is that I don't think it's likely that Tua can play as poorly as he probably did last Sunday. Like, there's still talent there, man. Like, there was some still throws that he made in that game that were like wow throws, like the one that he hit the Waddle late in the game. I was like, damn, where's that been all day, Tua? Like, yeah, he is such a rhythm player, man. Like, that's like, if he can get off there and make some nice throws, get a couple, good easy completions early where his receivers are getting yak, like Darren Waller killed the Jets the last time we played them, if you remember. Darren Waller, man, is open a damn lot out there. I do think Mike has to do one thing a little bit better in this game. He utilizes Achane really well. I think he's got to do a little bit better of a job of utilizing Waddle and Waller. Those are mismatches against the Jets, and those are players that should flourish. If Brandon Stevens is covering Jalen Waddle, you got to take shots early and often. And those safeties back there for the Jets, like, they're not good, strong veteran guys. Like Malachi Moore has 1 or 2 starts under his belt as a player. Like, I feel like you got to try to help Tua hit some big plays to get some of that mojo, get a lead, and then the better team wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like, you need the Bengals. You need the Bengals to win this weekend, right? You obviously need the Eagles to beat the Chargers this weekend. You actually want the Texans to beat the Chiefs. You need you want the Saints to beat the Bucks, and you actually want the Jags to beat the Colts. So, you need like the Jags to win, the Bengals to win, and the Eagles to win this weekend, and then if that happens, I think your chances go up to, let me do the math here quick. Your chances go up to 27% heading into week 15.
Yeah, I don't like.
But then you need like the Cardinals to beat the Texans. You need the Patriots to beat the Bills. You need the Seahawks to beat the Colts in week 15. And you need the Titans to beat the 49ers. And you need and then if all of that happens, right? If all of that happens, all of a sudden you're up to like a 56% chance of making the playoffs.
Right. Hey, look,
you need a lot of things to go your way, right?
I guess stranger things have happened, but man, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, but that's always with this team. Like, they always, even when they control their own destiny, heading down the stretch, they always put themselves in a position where they need other teams to help them. That's always been the case, man. It's just, it's stuck in the intertwined web of mediocrity.
The game that is the heartbreaker of the season is that Carolina game.
And the Chargers game.
And if Jalen Phillips makes a sack against the Chargers. And if
crazy how this defense is a lot better since he's gone, eh?
Like,
crazy how this defense is getting better with Jalen Phillips gone too, eh? Right, everyone wants to talk about Greer's gone. Let's talk about what this team's been since Jalen Phillips left.
Well, and I know he flashed early in Philadelphia, but like he has not had
great
games.
Down, eh?
Yeah, right. He quieted down quick.
Yeah.
And the Eagles have lost more than they've lost in years since he went there, man. So who knows?
Yeah. Listen, all you can do is control the controllables and try to win out. And I'll tell you this much: if they get to 10-7, McDaniel's safe. It's not even a discussion to have. I think because the big issue for me, and I didn't get to say it earlier when you brought up Tomlin. This is what the issue with Tomlin for me is. He hasn't got the quarterback right since Roethlisberger. And now you've got Steelers players and ex-coaches coming out and saying it was more on his assistants when he was winning Super Bowls, and when they're being that successful, it was more on the people he had around him. So I don't know, man. And then you add on the history of no coach has won a Super Bowl with two different teams. Like McDaniel can at least say, hey, I was a reclamation project, but I got the quarterback right for a couple of years. It was just on the player as to why he's regressed.
2 more wins, which would give them 7, would put Mike McDaniel at safe.
Yeah. And that would, listen, if they get back to 7-7, then, I'll sip a little hopium. But the problem is there's just too much is being controlled by other teams who aren't losing, and so I don't like our chances. But guys, let's get out of here. Smash the like button. I'll be live tomorrow with Richmond as well as ball game. And then we got to get ready for the Jets game. So smash that like button, subscribe if you are new. Let's hit that like goal while we're still live. We're only about 20 away from hitting 100. So smash that like button, smash it. We'll see you on the next one. Fins up all day, every day, baby.